Hello and welcome everyone to week 5 of Tournament of Stars Season 3. My name is 2D20 Zane, and tonight we're bringing you QFES Ravageurs versus the Metal Gear Squadron here on MWO Leagues 2. Over on the main channel, MWO Leagues 1, you should find the Div A match for Fidelis versus... double checking I got the right times here. Yep. Fidelis versus DSC, casted by Bowser and Jay. Here on League 2, we have the final match of Div H. The first drop is, as always, a series of duels, a 2v2 and a 1v1, or a pair of 2v2s and a 1v1. The 1v1 will be fought in trial mechs. This week, it's the Direwolf trial with LBX-5s and ER-PPCs on the Boreal Reach. Then we'll move on to the Liao Jungle, where teams can bring any assault or medium they'd like. And finally, any light and any medium the teams would like on the Steiner Coliseum. The mech restrictions for this tournament is clan tech only, as the name Tournament of Stars would suggest. This is a clan tech tournament. And during the dual drops, so the 1v1 and the pair of 2v2s, legendary mechs are banned. So it looks like we have Acid Angel coming in for the Ravageurs, and Team Captain Gunraptor coming in for Metal Gear Squadron. Both players sitting in the 100 tons. And we're just waiting on the players to lock up. Acid Angel locked up in that Direwolf. Team 2 not actually locked because he's not ready. There we go. And let's get into match. Let me just try to fix that. Last time switching fixed it. There we go. Okay, so both teams loading in. Again, because this is the first match of the 1v1, teams will be in the same Direwolf Bravo trial mech. And honestly, if you haven't had the opportunity, or if you started playing long enough ago that the trial mechs were bad, which honestly wasn't all that long ago, they're definitely worth a look. PGI has been working with the Cauldron, put a lot of work into tightening up the builds. As Gunraptor gets opened up very early, let's just try to get a sense. Oh, it looks like he got a headshot. Couple of headshots now, but Acid Angel also very beat up. This is going real quick. He loses a torso, and in doing so loses 3 of his 5 LBX-5s. Gonna keep charging in here as Gunraptor is able to just fire away. Kind of open season on Acid Angel. He's open CT now. Gunraptor still armor everywhere. Takes him out. It'll be a very, very quick first duel on the books, and that's 1 point for the Metal Gear Squadron. $526 damage coming out of Gunraptor, 256 coming out of Acid Angel. Now we are off to the Liao Jungle. There are 6 points available per drop, with the 3 duels counting as a single drop for the purpose of points. And each kill is worth 1 point, loosely speaking. There's a couple of situations in which teams can get full points while not joining in, or while not getting 5 kills, but assume 1 point per kill and 1 point per win. It's a safe bet. So we have Beasley and John Norn coming in for the Ravageurs. Gun Raptors still inviting in their team for the 2v2. I'm expecting probably somewhere around 145, 150 tons for the 2v2, in that I'm expecting a Stone Rhino or a similar 100-ton assault and something like a packet or a Shadow Cat as the light mech. It looks like Star Beasts and NT are coming in for Metal Gear Squadron. Based on the standings, don't believe either team can compete to first at the moment, but Metal Gear Squadron is only 22 points behind Historic Hook Swords in second, so a strong showing here could catapult them up to second place. And despite my misgivings and wishes that it wouldn't happen, if the Ravageurs are able to earn 21 points, that will put them ahead of my own clan Saber Goose. 22 points to go ahead, 21 to tie, and I think we win the breaker. Not 100% sure how that works. But if the Frenchmen earn 22 points, that'll put them into fourth and put me in last place, where, depending on who you ask, I may very well belong. The Metal Gear Squadron have locked up at 140 tons. So we'll see what they bring there. And it looks like the Ravageurs locking up and hovering 145. Probably the builds as I described. Let's get into lobby. Or, pardon me, get into match. Here we are on the layout jungle. This stone bridge probably going to be a central point to fight around. This tree historically has also been a strong point. And I just noticed up here we have a little dropship. Good to know how the teams got into those weird elevator pillar things. And it looks like we have a Direwolf Ultraviolet and the Shadow Cat coming out for Squadron Suicide. 5 Ultra 2s and 3 Ultra 5s on that Direwolf. And an LBX 10 and 6 AP Gauss on the Shadow Cat. Looks like range, just based off the fire we saw exchanged there. We've got Charbis in a Kolos with a pair of LB20s and 6 CERM 6s, and then NT in an Arctic Wolf. That's probably going to be another CERM bomber. Yeah, 5 CERM 2s and 4 CERM 6s. So I guess they just threw the gravel for funsies. Is John Norton now going to try to take some pot shots and get a little bit of the armor off that Stone Rhino, as much as they can, really. Setting up around the rock. Given their weapon systems, this is very much on Metal Gear Squadron to push. You gotta get within, I believe it's 300, depends on the mech and the exact skills. They have to get within a fairly short maximum range. The short range missiles, or SRMs, to be effective. Arty Strike coming down, not going to get any damage, as NT and Charbis are just going to kind of poke out either side and decide which side of this they want to push, as Cusley has just set up and is loving this situation. They get to free farm, essentially. Looks like the far side is going to be the push. Cusley hasn't spotted it quite yet. Oh, there they go. Opening up. It's a little gravel thrown back their way for their trouble. but the Metal Gear have made it about halfway across. So they've got one very short dash in, and QC has rotated right over to try to spot them. Arby's is going to go first, charging right in on the direwolf in that Kolos. Fires back. Takes a lot of damage to the CT. NT able to dodge most of it. This is right where Metal Gear wants to be. They're going to push up. Looks like NT going for the flank. Shardabase goes in, engages on the direwolf, takes a lot of damage, but is opening them up and gets NT right into the back. They open up that direwolf, pour it out from behind. That Arctic Wolf able to pick it apart, and it's just on John Norn in that Shadowcat. Sharpie's beaten but not bloodied, taking a lot of damage in an open back torso as John Norn loses the torso and loses the rest of his mech, leading to a 2-0 and an open head for Metal Gear Squadron. So that'll give them the extra point for the drop win, giving them 4 points on the match so far. 500 damage out of that Kolos, 228 out of the Arctic Wolf. The Direwolf earning a respectable 381 and 155 from the Shadow Cat. Get back into the lobby. And now we are off to Steiner Coliseum for our final duel. This is the medium and light mech. Answer chat. Did I swap them up to the wrong side? Yes, I did. My bad there. Looks like Zergulator coming back in for the Ravageurs. And Eagle Eyes as the second. Dust Cabinet 4 coming in for a Metal Gear Squadron. We'll see who their co-pilot is going to be. It's going to be Von Pin. As I was saying before, we're probably going to see the Warthogs come out, along with Packets or some sort of similarly brawly medium. The Warthog is, of course, an adder variant that runs... It's quirked for 14 machine guns, but turns out that 14 AP Gauss is also a very strong build on it, and has proven very popular in this tournament. Team 1 hovered and readied up, but not called locked at 90 tons. And Team 2 at 75. Zergulator calling the lock. Von Pin saying good luck. And he is locked. Let's get into match. Looks like a Adder and Black Lantern coming up for Zergulator. We'll check those builds once the mechs load in, because I'm real bad at clicking on them when they're down in the elevator shaft. And the same Adder and an Arctic Wolf coming out for the Metal Gear. Waiting on the teams to load in. This is Steiner Coliseum. You see we've got lovely flags of all the great houses. And Mech Warrior's equivalent of an F-22 Raptor flyover. Also fireworks at the start of the match. Waiting on the teams to load in here. There we go. Let's check what's on those builds. Looks like we've got 2 Serm 4s, 4 heavy machine guns, and 5 small lasers for Zergulator on the Black Lantern, and a Flamer light, 6 light machine guns, and 8 AP Gauss for Deagle Eyes. Blue lasers coming out of somewhere. I think that may have been out of. No, that's coming out of Dust Carbine. They've got a single ER large and 14 heavy machine guns on that adder. That is a spicy turtle boy. And then we've got the 5 Serm 2s and 4 Serm 6s on the Wolf, or Arctic Wolf. Zergulator charging right in, not wanting to have to mess with that ER large longer than they have to. Dust Carbine's the called target. Looks like they got some pretty good damage on him as he pokes back down. Now Von Pin going for the back shots. Looks like they're going to straight ignore him and focus on Dust Carbine, arguing that if they can get the relatively squishy and relatively high DPS adder off the field, it'll be the most efficient for them. Zergulator's taking a lot of shots in the back now, and looks like they've also been legged. Dust Carbine, very beat up, but shielding very, very well. Von Pin needed to pick up Zergulator quicker there, but will eventually pick him up. As Deagle Eyes is now the call target, he goes down. Yeah, leg shots for both. Zergulator was pushing that mech. And if Escadron CVC could have finished off Dust Carbine, I think they could have picked that up. But between twisting and shredding his armor as much as he can, Dust Canine was able to, I think I called him Dust Carbine earlier, apologies for that, was able to sell that mech dearly enough, pick up the win. Let's get these scores updated here. Another 2 points for Metal Gear Squadron as we make our way to the Crimson Strait. And I swapped the teams and basically every other setting. Crimson Strait Conquest. So now we're into the proper 5v5s, or star versus star, if you will. The teams can bring 5 players. You can bring 4 of each chassis before you cannot bring the chassis anymore. And unlike in the duels, legendary mechs are allowed. The ruling made for omnipods, most notably for the scale shot, is that if you use any amount of the omnipod of that mech, it is considered used for the purpose of being your 1 legendary allowed in the drop. And you can also only use each legendary mech once. So once you have used the scale shot, you cannot use it again, so on and so on, so on. The 2 drops contested here on the Crimson Strait will be 200 and 275 tons. Then once we move on to the Polar Highlands, those will be a 375 ton and a 450 ton. Artibus coming back in, along with Enti and Von Pim for Metal Gear. Looks like Ravageurs are going to be running Zergulator, Deagle Eyes, Acid Angel, John Norin, and a 5th pilot to be named later. In these 200-ton drops, we tend to see a lot of speed brawl, so 5 mechs of roughly the same size and tonnage charging into each other. The clans are very, very fast, especially compared to their inner-sphere counterparts, and they tend to pack a lot of firepower in a less durable package. So seeing these sort of quick brawl decks at 200 tons is very common. You have to invest a fair bit of tonnage to get a range trader, and given how quick you can assume your opponent's going to be because of the lower weights, it's really not advisable to bring a range trader. Looks like Gunraptor and Dark Lim Limbilviter. I'm gonna call you Dark. Rounding out the roster for Metal Gear Squadron, the name to surpass Metal Gear. And still waiting on the fifth from the Ravageurs. It's going to be QFES. Teams can drop light. There is a minimum tonnage required per drop, although you have to drop like 40 or 50 tons under in order for the deck to be illegal. So 5 tons, very much not an issue, especially because there's a fairly limited number of clan mechs at any given tonnage. Like, it's not an especially deep catalog of mechs, especially compared to their Inner Sphere counterparts. And quite often, the most effective mech for a particular role may be 5 or so tons under what you would typically, or what you would want to make exactly 200 tons or what have you. The example that's typically cited for this is in Drop 5. It's very, very common to have a deck that is 4 100-ton mechs and a 45-ton Shadow Cat. Instead of going to a 50-tonner to eat that extra 5 tons, there's no mech that's 50 tons that scouts as well as the Shadow Cat. Team 1, locking up, in fact, 5 tons light. So we'll see what they're running when we get into game. The Ravageurs are readied up at 200, but have not locked, so that may change. Although more often than not, it's the team captains giving sort of a final pep talk rather than necessarily a specific the specific change incoming. And while we're waiting for the teams to ready up, I'm just going to take a moment to thank Mr. Bear and the MWO Comp admins. Mr. Bear is the individual responsible for founding this tournament and running it. And of course, the MWO Comp admins make all this happen. They convince PGI to give us MC for prizes and just generally grease the wheels of community management, which, if you've ever had to do any amount of it, you know is a pain. So on this map, when we get into the 5v5s, there's only one map point that's considered valid, which for this map is Theta. One way over here. I mentioned earlier that there's some shenanigans that can happen. One of them is if teams accidentally take invalid point. Won't bother explaining what happens with the rules until that situation comes up, which we hope it won't. Teams loading in. I've mentioned this before, but you can actually see the leopards waiting to bring the battle mechs in that have rendered off in the distance. It was kind of cool. All right, the teams are loading in, and for the Metal Gear Squadron, we have a trio of Adder Warthogs, a Nova Sierra, and a Viper Scale Shots. Let's just have a quick look at that. Of course, they're going to dodge me. So that's Charteris in the Viper Scale Shot with an ER Large Laser and 6 CERM 2s. We have Inti in the Adder with a large laser and a heavy machine gun. I have a suspicion we're going to see that sort of singleton large laser on all of the light max. Yeah, same build on Dark and Von Pym. And then in that Nova we have, or on that Nova we have Gunraptor with 6 small pulse and 4 heavy machine guns. Ooh, that's spicy. Fred was able to get a fair bit of scratch damage on the very brawly team, very similarly brawly team from Squadron Suicide. We have Joe Norin in the scale shot. Ruined by my own double clicking. And Joe Norin in the scale shot, running 5 CERM 6s. We have Acid Angel in the Warthog along with QFES. They've all got AP Goss and assorted extra weapons, although Deagle Eyes is running that same light machine gun flamer build that we saw in the duels. And then we have Zerglinator bringing up the rear in a Brawl Vapor Eagle, 4 CERM 6s and LBX 20. Now, no team has taken the cap point just yet, but Acid Angel's gonna run into NT here. The large lasers will give Metal Gear Squadron a bit of an advantage on the push in. The Warthogs are very, very heat efficient, but it looks like they're going to charge right in, and Deagle Eyes is the called target. He takes a lot of machine gun fire, which is going off the buildings, and then Acid Angel pushes up, try to dissuade them. Hardy Strike comes down. That's going to try to force the engagement. Bit of a split fight. We have Deagle Eyes about to wander into Gunrapper and Enti with Joe Norin dancing around the side, but he's also got, or Gunrapper also has Dark and Von Pim. Joe Norin jumps in with Acid Angel, trying to pick up Enti as Deagle Eyes and QFES try to pick up Gunraptor. Very, very split fight. Looks like Enti is called target. Gunraptor got torn apart, losing an arm and a lot of their weaponry in the process. Zerglinator the called target for Metal Gear Squadron. He's self-destruct, but that was probably from losing a torso. Deagle Eyes now the call as Acid Angel tries to pick up Von Pim. Deagle Eyes goes down. NT and Gunraptor both very, very low. QFES gets caught out from behind by the scale shot. Acid Angel picks up NT. Joe Norin jumping around, trying to get onto his next target as Acid Angels fight Gunraptor and Charterless. Dark picks up Joe Norin. It's all up to Acid Angel now. How many points can he pick up? He's focusing on Charterless. If he goes for Gunraptor, he may be able to pick up the extra point for his team, but he's focused on that scale shot, gets taken down. That'll be a 5-1 victory for Metal Gear. And the game will end as soon as they pick up the cap point. I like the build rotation, I guess you would call it, bringing the ER large on the Warthogs. Obviously, you'll lose a bit of ammo, or possibly a bit of speed. Didn't look like they were all that slow, but I'd have to check, the exact mech lab, which I can't do from the observer slot. But given that we've seen teams running a medium pulse there without too much issue, I'm guessing they're just cutting a bit of ammo. To fit in that ER large. Let's get the teams swapped up. So now we are on to my favorite tonnage. No, I will not hush up about it. 275 is the golden tonnage for this tournament. It is light enough that Speed Brawl still works. It is heavy enough that you can make range or DACA work. And because it is 275, you see a lot of weirder clan heavies, like the Timberwolf, that wouldn't otherwise see a lot of playing comp because they're at a rather awkward tonnage. They maybe don't have as much armor as you would want for a heavier tonnage drop, but at this sort of light-ish drop, they're right in the sweet point. Why I think 275 tons is the best tonnage in this tournament. Looks like Usley coming back in for the Ravageurs. Pretty much the same roster coming back for Metal Gear Squadron. Or if not the same, then the similar one. We'll check in a moment when the... Yeah, it looks like Dark came out for Dusk Canine for Metal Gear. Teams could register with, I think it was up to 8. So very, very possible that teams could bring um, teams could bring subs. So it looks like Zerglander has locked the team up at exactly 175. Just waiting on the lockup from Team 2. And there's the locked from Gunraptor. Let's get into match. As I mentioned before, teams can bring up to 4 of any given mech, which means in theory we could see one more adder out of these teams. Notably, the 1v1 and 2v2 duels don't count for your 4 of, which is nice. Waiting for the teams to load in here. So one of the interesting things, we saw the scale shot kind of getting sniper positions and scouting from up over here, using the jump jets to get themselves up there, and then using the ER large to do sort of scratch damage. When I say scratch damage, what I mean is basically small amounts of damage from when you have a single large laser or a similarly small number of long-range weapons. The idea is that multiple small instances of damage will add up over time. Or, you scratch the paint enough, eventually you'll damage something important. Don't know if scratching the paint is actually the origin of the phrase, or note it. And then, so coming in, starting on the blue side, we have a Shadowcat, pair of Shadowcats, a Piranha, an Orion Scroll, and a Mad Cat Mark II coming in from Acid Angel. They've got 2 Ultra 5s, 2 Ultra 10s, and 2 ER Meads on that Mad Cat Mark II Bravo. Zerglanator in the scroll has an Ultra 20 and 4 plasma cannons. Eagle Eyes in the Piranha 1 has 3 flamers and 12 light machine guns. And then Cusley and Jonoran in those Shadowcats are running LB10 and AP Goss, and LB10 and AP Goss. Heading over to the Metal Gear side, we have a pair of Arctic Wolves. Those will probably be CERN bombers. Yep, various flavors of CERN bomber. And then we have a interesting ridgeline play from the Mad Dog, Rifleman, and Sun Spider. We've got Gunraptor with Streak CERN 2s and 4s, Micro Pulse, and a light tag in that Mad Dog Revenant. We have 4 Ultra 2s in Von Pym, or on Von Pym in the Sun Spider, and then we have Dusk Canine in the Rifleman 2C with 6 AC2s. Now, I haven't checked the range numbers, presumably Metal Gear Squadron has, but the damage drop-off shooting across the map like that has to be very high. My guess is their plan to park the range max where they currently have their wolf pack and have Overwatch into the cap point. Now, if Joe Norin is able to just sneak Theta and get there right now, that would force that would force Metal Gear Squadron to push into them. But it doesn't look like that's what the Ravageurs are doing. They're sort of fording up around the tunnel entrance, probably waiting to spot the leading element from Metal Gear Squadron. which of course they won't, unless Charter Bliss is going for a tunnel push. Nope, they're up here on the top level. Both teams around this central mountain just kind of wondering where the heck the other team is. And those Rangers are moving right up to pretty much exactly where I predicted. So street SERMs are an interesting choice. For those of you that don't know, unlike conventional SERMs, street SERMs require a lock-on to fire, and what they do is they actually track the target a little bit. The upside of this is it makes them a lot easier to hit fast-moving light mechs like the Piranha, like the Shadowcat with. The downside, on top of requiring the lock-on time, is that you don't have as much of ability to shoot for components, as Gunraptor takes a bit of plasma cannon fire there as they peek up. By shooting for components, all we mean is that we've seen teams, go for legs, shoot out the legs or side torsos, rather than going for just whichever component happens to be hit. Now we're going to scooch right over here from the training because Shalabus and Enti are going to jump on Acid Angel, assuming they spot him. They do not. Acid Angel gets out with his life, and we may just see the whole team collapse on these Arctic Wolves. 2v5. Cusley takes a very big bump, and 2 to the back, but Shardabus heading out. Enti, going to be the called target, takes a lot of fire. Both teams sort of fighting it up in the middle now as all 5 members of Squadron Suicide go to fight them. Enti takes down Zerglinator. That's a trade that I would call worth. But Joe Norn is probably going to be able to pick up Charterless on the back side of this. See if I can get their paper doll. Yeah, they've lost an arm, and in doing so, have lost a fair bit of weapons. Eagle Eyes is going to get forced off by Gunraptor. He does not want to mess with those CERMs, but Joe Norn should be able to win this out in the duel as Dark Canine pushes up for support. Gunraptor now in the middle of 4, gets a lot of machine gun and flamer fire to the back. Acid Angel opens up on him as Joe Norn continues fighting Charter Bliss and Cusley looking to get back into this fight as efficiently as they can. Dark Canine and who's that? On the Von Pim are just free farming though, which is very good to see. Our Acid Angel self-destructs. Did they lose a torso as Charter Bliss finally gets picked up by Joe Norn? Did they lose a torso for the heat? They did. That's probably why they self-destructed. Very beat up Eagle Eyes and Cusley jumping in on Gunraptor here. Eagle Eyes will go down, the CERM's making quick look of him, and Cusley finally cleans him up, but unfortunately it's 2 very beat up light mechs versus 2 very fresh range traders. Dark Canine now rolls up, picks up Cusley, going to continue firing on Joe Norn as Von Pim moves right up here and takes him out. It's all over but the signing. And as soon as Metal Gear Squadron picks up, gives themselves some celebratory fireworks, hitting the skybox. And as soon as they pick up the cap point, that will be the game. 5-3. Now, as mentioned, first place is out of reach, but they can get themselves a very commanding second. As Death Canine will pick it up, Von Pim continues to give themselves some fireworks, and they pick up the point. I will say, though, very greedy play from the Arctic Wolves there. Uh, if the collapse had been just a little more effective, I think we would have seen a different outcome to that match. And unsurprisingly, Dust Canine picking up 515 damage in that Rifleman, just free farming the entire time. Back into the lobby. And so now we are off to the Polar Highlands for the 375-ton drop. Metal Gear Squadron will be Team 1 in the lobby. There we go. So while we're waiting for the teams to ready up, let's talk about Championship Series, our next upcoming tournament. For those of you who haven't played in one before, Championship Series is the official PGI Crown Jewel tournament of the MWO comp season. Unlike the other tournaments, which are player run and player organized, Championship Series, as the PGI Crown Jewel line would suggest, is actually organized and run by PGI, the developers of MechWarrior Online. And instead of being played in private lobbies, as these tournaments have been, it'll actually be played through a comp queue button in the client. What you do is you sign up. It's teams of 8v8, 5-point conquest. There'll be a bunch of rules about how many of each weight class you can bring, and it's traditionally unique chassis, so you can only run one rifleman, one executioner, etc., etc. And instead of playing multiple matches against a single team, you queue up and there's an elo system. So as the ladder sorts itself out, eventually the better teams will end up playing against the better teams, lower teams against the lower teams, with the top 9 teams from the ladder joining 3 invitational teams for a 12v12 sort of world championship match. There's rewards for top 25, I believe, have been announced. So if you get into the top 25 teams on the ladder, you get a bunch of fancy prizes. Similarly, if your team plays at least 20 games, you get prizes, and then for every 10 games your team plays up to 60, you'll get even more prizes. So if you're a lower tier team, like mine, it's still a good idea to play, get your 60 games in, get a lot of good practice in, and get a whole bunch of free stuff, like credits, mech bays, T-bills, cartridges, pear trees, the kitchen sink, anything you can think of. And that'll be running in late August, I believe the queues will open up. Gun Raptor, calling locked. Gonna wait on Team 2 to lock it up. Both teams launching at 375. Let's get into it. You know, I've said it before, but I do kind of miss the old version of Polar Highlands, the infamous Polar Lurmlands. Now, the valid point for this map will be Kappa, aka this lovely guy here, surrounded by trenches and ridges. What we've seen at higher tiers as well as lower tiers, frankly, is that this map very much prefers range trade. The hills on each side of the cap make for excellent peaking points, and the lack of vertical cover means that mechs without jump jets are still able to sort of hill peak and trade. I try to get a good loading screen style thing going. There we go. At 375, though, like Speed Brawl is frankly always a possibility, but it's a little more likely at 375 than it is at 450. If teams are going to do Speed Brawl, we're expecting to see Gargoyles, Executioners, maybe Spirit Bears if they're bold. Although the actions of certain teams may have soured that mech in the eyes of the comp community, and frankly, it's not that good of a mech anyway, as much as it pains me to say that. All right, the teams have loaded in. For the Ravageurs, we have 2 Rifleman 2Cs, a Mad Cat 2C, a pair of Mad Cat 2Cs, and a Timberwolf. Let's check the builds here. On the Timberwolf, we have 4 ER mediums and 2 large pulse. On the legendary Dreadnought, we have 3 ER mediums and 4 AC10s. On the just regular Marauder 2, oh sorry, those are Marauder 2Cs, not Mad Cats, my bad. On the regular Marauder, we have 6 ER mediums and 2 large pulse. And then on the Rifleman, we have a Flamer and 4 large pulse, and 3 ER mediums and 4 large pulse. Coming up for Ravageurs Squadron, they have another Arctic Wolf, trio of direwolves, and a Cougar Prime. That Arctic Wolf, if it's anything other than Serms, I will find a hat and consume it. The fact that it has a Narc doesn't make it not Serms. The Cougar is running Lerms. We have Lerm 50, I believe, 2 15s and 2 10s on that Cougar Prime. And then where's the rest of the range traders here? On the 2 Direwolf Ultraviolets, we have Lerms. Lermboat Direwolf with 420s, a 15, a 10, and an ER PPC and a tag. And then the same build on Dark Direwolf. And then finally, Von Pym, the Direwolf Charlie. Lerm 90? Yeah, 420s. Nice. 420s, a 10, and a pair of ER PPCs. So just, oh, look at that. That'll put a scratch in your paint. Lenore going down to 55% from those Lerms. Lost an arm's got an open torso. The weather not conducive to range trading. As he loses the torso, gets legged. One leg down. Oh, this is gorgeous. Stark picking up John Norin very, very quickly. Clovis able to hide from the rain. Well, looks like Acid Angel is going to be the next called target. Oh, Clovis not able to hide anymore. Just, oh, getting burned down. Lost a leg, lost a torso. Just constant hail of missiles. As Zerglinator is now the called target. Let's watch his mech fall apart. Nope, nope, not falling apart yet. Back to Clovis. Let's watch Clovis' mech fall apart. Zerglinator splits up the thing. He's legged, he's got an open torso, but he's charging forward, trying to get within the minimum range of those Lerms so they do half damage. And Charterbliss is just gonna pick him up from behind. Gunraptor, though, very beat up. Lost the torso, so lost his PPCs and lost some of his Lerms. Open torso now. Acid Angel's probably going to pick him up, but it looks like he's the next hailed target. As Charterbliss is just going to peek right behind him and boop him with that Narc. Eagle Eyes goes down, shoot Charterbliss in the Arctic Wolf, as Acid Angel just can't do anything. Oh man. That was beautiful. That brings a tear to my eye, guys. Very nicely done, Metal Gear Squadron. Bringing the rain in the final week of Tournament of Stars. It happened. Finally happened. I can believe. 862 damage for Gunraptor in that Ultraviolet. 600, 700 damage across the board for the rest of the Lermers. The Cougar almost out-damaging Dark Direwolf. And Acid Angel putting up the biggest fight out of the Ravageurs. That was a thing of beauty. You know, people sometimes ask me why I like streaming the low tiers as much as I do. And now I can just send them this clip. As we swap teams for the third and final, or fourth, fifth, for the final drop Donorn, Acid Angel, Clovis, Cusley, and Zerglander coming in for the Ravageurs. NT, Shardavis, Gunraptor, Dusk Canine, and Von Pim staying in for Metal Gear Squadron. I straight up forgot to add the points for that. I was too mesmerized. I believe it was 5-1. I'll catch it in a minute when the stream cycles through. Ugh. So, finally, I don't know if I've brought this up before, but if you do want to get better at MDOBO comp, or you just want to join the community, get advice on builds, there is a Discord linked down below in the title card or in the channel cards for the MWO comp Discord. I'm assuming that most of the viewers here are in fact coming from the Discord, but in case you stumbled across this stream, you just were browsing for MechWarrior Online content and caught us, that's where you can go to find all the tournament information. And all the information. It's a great place to go for build advice. There's also the MechDB Discord, which I don't have a link to, unfortunately. That's another very good one to go for. But if you're looking for a team or looking for advice on how to organize your unit to run comp, highly recommend the MWO comp Discord. Looks like the Ravageurs are hovering but haven't locked in. 445 tons. Oh, there they go, locking it in. Again, probably that 400 tonners and the Shadowcat that I was speculating earlier. And then the Metal Gear Squadron hovering the same thing. Gonna do some final moving of their mechs around. After tonight, we have, I believe, one final stream this evening. Luscious Balzac of FGRD is going to be broadcasting the Div F match between the Bear Brawlers and QFES Escadron Suicide over on the MWO League main channel. That match will either be on the main channel and delayed until the end of the Div A match, or will be on MWO Leagues 3. I don't know what Luscious is playing. We are just waiting on Gunraptor to ready up and call locked. So after that performance, I can understand wanting to take a minute and bask. I really can. Worth noting, in the way the tournament's set up, teams have 5 minutes from the lock call to actually ready up. Team 2 locked. Let's get into the fifth and final match. Back over to Kappa. like I've said previously, I'm expecting 8 Stone Rhinos and 2 Shadowcats. See what we get. Do my loading screen. Both these teams getting into drop 5, just waiting on the teams to load in here on the Polar Highlands. I don't really have all that much trivia about this map aside from teams loaded in. So not quite what I was expecting from Metal Gear Squadron. As we have a look at what they're running here. They've got a Mad Cat Mark II with 2 Ultra 5s, 2 Ultra 10s, an Axum, which is the Legend with 2 Ultra 2s, 2 Ultra 5s, 2 Ultra 10s, the Rifleman 2C with 6 AC2s, another Mad Cat Mark II with 2 5s and 2 10s, and a Direwolf Bravo with an ERPC and 6 AC5s. Over on the Ravageurs side, we have a trio of Kodiak 3s, an Ultraviolet, and a Shadowcat. The Kodiak 3 is running 2 5s, 2 10s, and 4 ER Meads. The Shadowcat is running the LBX 10 6 AP Gauss build that we've seen previously. Zergulator's Kodiak is running 2 ER Larges and 4 AC10s. QFES is running an ER PPC and 4 10s. And Qsley in the Ultraviolet is running 4 Ultra 2s and 4 2s. Both teams just sort of charging towards the point, not really a ton of advanced scouting. In fact, the closest thing to the scout on the Metal Gear Squadron side is that Rifleman. As teams open up on each other, Von Pym and Zergulator taking the lion's share of the fire. But at these sort of ranges, I don't know how effective it's actually going to be. Joe Narn peeking around spots a lot of the range, if not just recon by fire. Going to get right up against the. They'll try to peek in. Archangel peeks up, takes a lot of CT damage, going down to 87%. It looks like all 4 of the range traders in Metal Gear are set up to fire right down this alleyway. Lofus, now the called target, as Acid Angel peeks up, trying to leave some of the pressure, but he's open on both torsos. Zerglinator now steps up, but I don't think he wants to step into that much firepower. Joe Norn able to just sliver the cap and start the timer. Lofus takes a bit more damage. Acid Angel now getting shot at. Looks like Shardless in the Mad Cat is pushing up. That's a very beat up range trader set, as Clovis in fact goes down to the Mad Cat of Escadron on Escadron Suicide side. Acid Angel then takes a lot of fire. Zerglander nowhere near the peak of hell, can't really trade effectively. And Qsley is very fresh, probably just now getting into the fight. Joe Norn is the called target, takes a lot of fire. But Gunraptor and Enti on the Metal Gear side, a little beat up. Archangel will go down to Gunraptor in the range trading. Zerglator now very beat up, trying to peek up. Qsley also starting to peek that back hill. But 3v5, 3v2 now as Joe Norn goes down. Metal Gear just needs to put the pedal to the metal and roll up here, and that'll clean it up. They take down Zerglinator. Just Qsley left now. Standing, the brave cheese stands alone in the direwolf. Let's see if he can 1v5. Squads rolling up here from Metal Gear Squadron. Looks like Charterbliss is going to be the target. Both mechs pounding away at each other. Qsley getting the worst of it as he's opened up in the torso. Goes on down. Starless was open on the right torso, but still had the armor. 5-0 for Metal Gear Squad. I believe that's actually the first perfect game of the tournament. Unless someone is going to be very naughty and commit some war crimes. And now NT, I think, hoping to get the same firework effect they saw on Crimson Strait. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to work. Team is spreading it now, going for the Epsilon cap. Chartabist limping their way over there in a very beat up Mad Cat. But thankfully, a still two-legged Mad Cat. As soon as the point timer goes over 77, Metal Gear Squadron will pick up. You know, I'll check the records, but I think this might be the first 30-point game. Pick up Epsilon. Gunraptor tromping their way towards Theta. At 2 points a second, he might make it there before 77 points, but we will see. I don't think they'll quite make it. Oh, actually, no, they will. They may not take the cat, but they'll at least get onto the point. That counts. Counting that. But very nicely played there, Metal Gear Squadron. And QFES Ravageurs. I have been 2D20 Zane. This has been the final cast of Div H. We are all wrapped up, and the math nerds among us can go figure out the final standings. Final damage, Starless with 662 going to round out damage numbers. Yeah. Head on over to MechWarrior Leagues 1. The Div A match should still be going. I had the capacity to send you as a raid, I would. Yeah, and then there should be the wrap-up of the Div A match, and then Luscious's final cast of the night of Bear Brawlers and Escadron Suicide. As I said, I've been Zan. See y'all guys around.